Welcome everybody to part 2 of the Community Infrastructure Service Committee for March 6, 2017. Up for discussion item is item number 7, dealing with the 2017 Community Grants Tier 2. We have a staff presentation, Ms. Woodcock and Bernard Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are pleased to be here today to provide committee with the recommendations of the Peer and Staff Review Committee for the Tier 2 Community Grants Program. Today's report provides details regarding the 2017 Tier 2 grant requests, the process used to evaluate the requests, and the results from that evaluation and assessment. As indicated in the report, this year, the City received 59 Tier 2 applications with a total value of $362,784 in requests. The budget for 2017 Community Grants Tier 2 is $186,554. Please note that since this report was prepared, one group has indicated that they will not be able to use the grant funds allocated to them. Therefore, the total allocation recommended by the Peer and Staff Review Committee is changed to $155,236, and this leaves an unallocated balance of $31,318. I can give you those numbers again if you need them later. After each member individually reviewed all of the applications in detail, and that was approximately 20 to 25 hours per member, the Peer and Staff Review Committee met on 2 occasions for a total of 6 hours to make decisions on grant allocations using the Council-approved Grant Allocation Assessment Framework. The recommendations put forth by the Review Committee are based on a variety of factors, such as the quality of an application, including the use of mandatory templates, alignment with the stated goals and criteria for Tier 2 grants, the financial strength of the requesting organization, whether or not an event or program is free or ticketed, and whether or not they are volunteer or staff run. We recognize and emphasize that all of the applications received represent great work being done by volunteer groups in our community, and thank all the applicants. As you know, the Tier 2 Community Grants Program is a group effort of community volunteers on the Peer and Staff Review Committee who provide a diverse community lens that helps to balance the committee's discussions and conclusions. Thanks to Georgina DeBarros, Janet Mayhew, and Linda Zensner for their contribution. And city staff, who provide invaluable expertise acquired from their relationship building with many of the groups and their collective knowledge of the grants process. Thanks to Kelly Stice, Bob Shane, Sylvia D. Donato, Jeff Young, and Renata Wilms for their contribution. I'd like to highlight the process and procedures in place for the Tier 2 grant program. To ensure fairness and equity in the application process, late applications are not accepted. The deadline date and time are firm and communicated frequently in correspondence and documents, as well as at the public information meeting. Again, to ensure fairness and equity in the application process, the Review Committee is of the opinion that groups should not be permitted to provide additional, revised, and/or new information on appeal to Council. Doing so provides the groups that appeal the advantage of more time to prepare their submission, which is unfair to other applicants that prepared their materials in full and submitted them by the application deadline. In the last several years, half of the groups who appealed submitted revised requests and/or new information. Council members will see that the Review Committee did not disperse all of the funds available. Committee members were not willing to recommend higher grant amounts simply to use up these unallocated funds. Doing so is not sustainable in future years and could create a false expectation amongst applicants for future funding. Any funding approved by Council during this appeal process should be for one-time use only. Lastly, Council is reminded that if the eligible transfers to the Tier 1 grant process for 2018 are approved, there will be a corresponding reduction in the amount of funding available for Tier 2 grants in 2018. We have received 7 appeals to the Review Committee's recommendations this year, and those groups are here today as delegations. And of course, staff are here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Woodcock. So before I move ahead, what I'm going to do is what we've done in the past with regards to tier 2 grants is we're going to take questions of staff after we hear all the delegations, and we'll refrain from taking any motions until after we hear all the delegations. And so with that, our first delegation just up is Sue Nally from the Irish Real Life Festival. And just to remind all delegates that pursuant to Council's procedural bylaw, delegations are permitted to address the committee for a maximum of 5 minutes. So welcome, Sue.
Hi. Thank you so much for your time, and we appreciate the opportunity to speak to you about our festival. So just to give you a little idea of what the Irish Real Life Festival is, it's a new festival. This is our 2nd year. So we're a celebration of contemporary and traditional culture. We're a showcase of local performers and artists, and we're a community builder. So we're basically just trying to bring a positive Irish cultural experience to the Waterloo region. So why is this important to our city and region? There's a lot of reasons there. Part of it is that there is a large Irish population in the Waterloo region, and members of the community feel that the Irish culture isn't positively represented in around St. Patrick's Day, and we're hoping to create experiences for people to engage in a more positive way. We also feel that it's a good way to bring people into the area. It's a good way to engage families and things over the March break. It supports a lot of musicians, performers, and artists. We've discovered so many harp groups and Irish dance groups and playwrights and authors, and we're very excited to try to support them. So this was our festival last year. We had 18 events, and it was very well received. We got a lot of great coverage. This year, Martin de Groot called the festival a gift to the community, which we felt very honored, and we really do feel that that's our passion, is to bring this to the Waterloo region. So last year, the highlights, we had 18 events in the 1 week. We had 3 sold-out events that were very popular. We always have a fundraising dinner where we donate to some cause in the community that we really believe in. Last year it was the KW Reception House. We had 2 internationally acclaimed dance schools perform. We employed a huge range of musicians. For a lot of Celtic musicians, it's the only time of year that they have to make a good chunk of their living. We tried to offer a lot of free family events as well, and we had a lot of support from and a lot of support of local businesses. So in our original bid, it might not have been as clear as we had hoped, but we do actually have a lot of events in Kitchener. We're doing a Celtic music school at Descendants this year in partnership with Riverside Celtic College out of Guelph. That's the first time this will be happening in KW. We have 2 nights of theatre and music at the Registry by local playwrights and musicians. We have 1 night at the Registry as well, which is going to be a phenomenal panel of musicians, academics, authors, writers, talking about the history of Irish immigration to Canada over the past 150 years. We have a harp and guitar afternoon at the KPL, free Irish stories by a wonderful storyteller at the KPL as well. We have a great opening ceremony, which we hope everybody can join us at, with an uilleann pipe player. Uilleann pipes, kind of like bagpipes, but Irish. And some internationally award-winning dancers, which I don't think we really realized the scope of talent in this city. These dancers have won awards around the world. We have 2 Celtic jam sessions, free and open to everyone. We have some music and dancing with a local group called Celtic Crossing and an Irish dance troupe downstairs on the Rotunda, which will be wonderful. Great way to start the St. Patrick's Day evening. We have a Ceilidh, which is an Irish folk dance at Victoria Park Pavilion, which has been going on for 20 years and is often sold out. So I think that's a real testament to the interest of Waterloo Region in Irish events. We also have a great day at the museum with Tinker Trucks, again, another nationally award-winning storyteller, a dance group, and CBC Kids will be filming it and attending. And also the museum has donated tickets to new Syrian families so that they can come out and enjoy that for free. So. We have tons of partners and supporters, so I wanted to put these out here only because to show that so many of these businesses were willing to take a chance on this festival, not only to support themselves, obviously, but to help promote the festival. They really believe that this is something that is a positive thing in the area, and we couldn't do it without all of them. So we did have to alter our budget once we didn't receive what we had asked. So we changed the programming a wee bit. Our main issue is we want to pay our performers. We want to pay our artists. We want to pay our graphics people. So many people have donated their time for free or for an extremely very low rate, and it's not comfortable always asking performers to do that, but they really believe so highly in the festival that they're willing to do it for almost free. And
Ms. Nally, can you please wrap up as soon as possible, please? Thank
sure.
you.
We're going places. So we're growing. We'd appreciate the support. We have big plans for this, and I think that's it.
Okay, we thank you for that. We do have some questions for you from committee. Councillor Gazzola.
Thank you. You haven't approached the city before this year. Why is that?
So last year we basically came at the festival partnering with businesses. We didn't approach them because so many people said they would donate their time. So we didn't actually have that budget. This year we want to pay people a fair price for their talents. So
and last year you asked Waterloo for $5,000. This year you're asking them for less. Did you get what you asked from them?
No, we didn't.
How much did they give you?
They gave us $2,500.
$2,500. Okay. I guess you've answered the question. I can't understand why all of a sudden you're looking for 3 times the municipal grants that you've had in the past, but I guess your performers are saying they need to get paid. Is that it?
Yeah, the majority of them didn't get paid last year. They're willing to do it for free.
But they won't do it for free again? That's it?
They're trying to make a living.
Yeah. What happens here if, for some reason, the city Kitchener doesn't give you any money? What does that mean? Well,
we are looking for alternative revenue streams, and we are looking for ways to be sustainable and self-sufficient because we'd prefer not to rely on grants forever. So we do fundraisers. We're partnering with places and trying to have profit sharing and things like that. So we are trying to develop that, but as a second-year festival, it's hard to make that happen still.
At the time, previously, you hadn't submitted any financial statements. Have you done so since or not?
Since the original application,
yes,
no.
Yeah. You haven't submitted any financial statements so that staff and council can get a complete picture of where you're at.
At this point, no.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming in and for the work you've done with respect to the festival. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before that I joined you folks for the flag raising at Speaker's Corner, and it was certainly a lot of fun. In terms of the grant request that you have right now, you've asked Waterloo as well, and they have granted it or not, or
They give us 2,500.
they've given you 2,500. And are there any other sort of places where you're seeking funding, or other orders of government, or anything like that?
Well, because the festival board is still in formation as well, that we weren't eligible for as many grants. So next year, we're modeling ourselves similar to Neruda as far as how we operate. So once that's in place, we'll be eligible for more grants.
So you're setting yourselves up as a
Yeah.
not-for-profit or charitable or whatever, and,
Yeah.
and doing that? Okay, great. I guess my last question would be, I see that you've reduced your request to 4,000. How much of that is for city facilities?
For city facilities, $150.
$150?
Yeah.
Because I see that you're using Victoria Park Pavilion and
Yeah.
and the Rotunda and so on.
Yeah, so for the Kaylee, so again, it's a partnership with various other organizations. So there's a group, Carja, who's been running the Kayleys, so they will actually foot that bill
Oh, okay.
for that, yeah. So it's mainly artist fees and admin, website, graphics, promotions.
Okay. And if you didn't, I guess my last question would be is, how different will the festival be from last year to this year if you get the additional money? And what would happen if you didn't get it?
We're going to go ahead as we have outlined this year. Everything's in place. So we've already cut back on some programming. We've already had to say no to some artists who we couldn't afford, which is very unfortunate. So we basically will be able to pay people who said, if you get a grant, this is our fee, who up until now said, well, we'll play for free until you can afford us, sort of thing. So,
Okay. Thank you very much.
thanks.
Thank you. We have Councillor Marsh.
Thank you, Chair Annettis. Ms. Nally, do you have any paid staff on your committee, or are you all volunteer-run?
So we have two pay our graphics person, who again has offered to do an incredible amount of work at a very low price. Graphics people are very expensive. So we do have to pay her. I was hoping to get paid for organizing the festival, but that's it. Besides that, we use our amazing volunteers and a placement student from Conestoga College as well.
Okay. And so as a second year of a festival that you're planning to have for many years down the road, what do you think might be the impact for future years if you weren't able to pay the artists again? What would you see might be, the impact for future years?
Yeah, I really think that I think the goodwill will run out. There really so many people, the artists, the performers, the playwrights, have all said, "We'll do this. We'll take a chance on it because we believe in it and we think it's a very important thing to do and it will grow." However, there's only so long they can survive on that. So I don't think we'll be able to attract as much talent if we can't pay them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fernandez.
Thank you. Have you been able to, or would you be able to break out the cost for the performers? Have you been able to, could you give if you had that information, could you give that to council today?
I could tonight. I'm actually heading up to Queen's Park to meet with, there's an Irish Heritage reception with Irish ambassadors, so He might give me money. But I won't be able to have that breakdown tonight,
Okay.
or this afternoon, sorry.
Okay. Do you think you could have it to us within the next 2 weeks?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, that would be helpful. Yeah, if you can get us that cost, because this would any decisions would get ratified at council in 2 weeks.
Okay.
So, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Nally. That's all the questions we have for you.
Thanks.
Our next delegation is Marie Pascal Desjardins from the Royal Medieval Fair. Welcome.
Hello, thank you for your time today. I'm also here with my colleagues from the Royal Medieval Fair Board, Ginevra Brown and Karen Otson. So I let Ginevra speak.
I just want to thank the previous delegation. I think they did a great presentation, and I wish you great luck with your festival in the future.
Members of the council, the Royal Medieval Fair is here because we'd like to obviously appeal or put ourselves up for reconsideration of our application. The main reason we are led to understand that we were not recommended for funding is that our file was deemed incomplete because, unfortunately, the wrong Excel file was attached for the budget. We did, in fact, have the template at the time, and we are a completely volunteer organization, and it was merely human error. I'd like to tell you a bit about the Royal Medieval Fair. We are about to have our 20th anniversary of fairs in the region, and we feel we're a strong candidate. We contribute to fostering of a vibrant community and community life in Kitchener-Waterloo. And we also add to, we feel, quality of life, the diversity, the community, and engagement, and the community engagement and economic development of KW. We have had consistently high numbers coming through our park, with the exception of the odd rain day. Last year, unfortunately, was one of those days. We still went on ahead, regardless of the fact the weather was not in our favor. We are an entirely volunteer-run organization, from the board of directors down to some of the children that come in and perform. We do hire performers. We do have that cost is offset by vendors that come in, but we are entirely volunteer-run, and we do it for the love of it. There is a great theatrical tradition in this city that we also support by having the fair. And is there anything else you'd like to add? So I think that is, we've been very grateful, I should say, also to have received funding from the city for the last 3 years. And we are hoping that human error might not be the stumbling block for future relations, as far as that goes.
If I can just add, the reason also for our appeal is that we're a strong applicant, and we strongly believe that we fit the priorities set out for this grant funds. So in our application, we argue that we support quality of life, diversity, community engagement, and economic development in the region of Waterloo. So that's why we decided to
appeal the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. We do have a few questions for you. Councillor Gazzola.
Yeah, I'm trying to look over your presentation, and you've also given us another sheet today. I'm a little confused because on one of the pages, on the sheets you gave us today, it showed that we did give you $1,500 last year. Is that correct?
Yes.
And this year you're asking for $5,000, right? And now one of the schedules that we have shows a 2017 budget, and there's nothing in for the city of Kitchener, but I guess that's not what you meant to do.
So I had asked staff to send my cover letter and the appropriate budget template to be distributed to you today.
Okay,
So
okay,
the one
and
we're
they
looking at
have,
is a new one.
yeah, they have circulated that, yes. Why all of a sudden are you asking for 3 times what you got last year. What's
Yeah.
Is that the rain? We've had some dismal weather the last 3 years. So we charge a gate fee, which normally covers the cost with the contingency fund as well. But through the last 3 rainy years, we've pretty much exploited that fund. So we are now at a sort of a zero base. So we're looking to keep the festival going, and if we were to receive another rain date without continued support, then we probably would not continue. So that's why we've increased the amount, because the expenses have not gone down in the last 20 years, and the City of Waterloo's contribution has.
so? Where do most of these events take place?
It all takes place in Waterloo Park. It's a one-day event.
Yeah. Okay. I had another question and it skipped. Yeah. You don't show any balance sheet here, so it's difficult to tell if you have any reserves backing you up. Am I hearing that you don't?
We have enough reserve to get this through this year, but beyond that, if it's another rain date, we probably will not.
So if you have enough reserve, are you budgeting? What are you budgeting for this year? Are you budgeting to break even, or?
Which one is it? This one?
Expenditures.
43.
Okay. That's what our expected.
Yeah, I gather you're budgeting to break even. So is that right?
We budget to, we're not for profit, so we're budget to break even with the small contingent.
Okay. Again, what might happen if the city of Kitchener is unable to support you?
We would be sad. We would be likely able to continue this year, but beyond that, we don't know.
Okay, thank you very much.
I just wanted to add one thing to your question when you were asking where we do our event. Our event is in Waterloo Park, but we have people from all over the region, including a number of actors, a huge number of actors from Kitchener. So while the location is Waterloo, we do encompass both cities.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Singh.
Thank you, ladies, and I can understand the limiting of resources that you guys manage to do all that you do. So, seeing that City of Waterloo has been giving the brunt of, municipal level support, if City of Kitchener were to increase theirs, would there be an ability to perhaps do 1 year in Waterloo, 1 year in Kitchener?
Let's talk.
We would be open to discussion on that for sure.
What kind of park, maybe?
Pardon?
Oh, never mind. All right. So you already said that you do have a bit of reserve, but if you have another rain day, that it would diminish that capacity. Is there a rationale why City of Waterloo over the last couple of years have been ratcheting down their support?
I believe they've had a change in regime, and through that they've tightened down on the festivals. I don't even believe they have a festival coordinator anymore. They've changed how they run culture, and we used to be technically one of the City of Waterloo's festivals, and now we're an associated partner. So, which is fine, that's fine with us, but in that they have, over the years, they're decreasing their support in a financial way.
It's a one-day event, right?
One-day event.
And how many people attend typically?
5,000, 6,000 on a good day. Last year we had 1,500 and it poured rain. Poured.
But typically 5,000 to 6,000, you're saying?
On a good day. On a normal, beautiful day, easily 5,000.
Or 17 of the 20.
All right. And you're saying there would be a willingness to, this year, to do the event in Kitchener?
This year?
No, not this year.
Well, it takes us a full year to plan it, so this year might not be. It's also our 20th anniversary, so, but we are certainly looking at all avenues going forward, so if we can meet with you at some point and discuss it, we'd love to.
Sure, okay, thank you.
Nice try, Councillor Singh. We have Councillor Fernandez. Sorry, I didn't click you in.
the Great Lawn does sound like it would be a great place, right? Councillor saying. Chair, just a quick question to you. Are we making motions now, or are we waiting till all delegations are completed?
We're waiting till all delegations.
Okay. If you were to receive what you received last year, and I've been to your fair a couple of times, unfortunately not in the pouring rain, but it is actually a fantastic event. If you were to receive at least what you've received last year, would that at least help you get over the hump?
I would say yes.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you. Mayor Verbanovich.
Well, thank you, and that was one of the questions I was going to ask. The other one, it was actually more directed to staff in that regard. Do you want me to hold that till later?
Let's go till later.
Okay.
Okay, those are all the questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next delegation is Kathy Takis from the Hungarians in Canadian Association.
Do I have to? Yes, I am.
We have a video presentation.
The Children Philharmonia's performance is seen by many supporters inside and outside of the Hungarian community as a great way of the community to be represented in the celebration of Canada's 150th birthday. We also see the project as a way for Hungarian refugees fleeing communism in Hungary who were taken in. The Children Philharmonia's performance is seen by many supporters inside and outside of the Hungarian community as a great way of the community to be represented in the celebration of Canada's 150th birthday. We also see the project as a way for Hungarian refugees fleeing communism in Hungary and who were taken in by Canada 60 years ago to say thank you, Canada. These Hungarians and their descendants became Canadians who strengthened this country tremendously. The Children Philharmonia celebrates its 35th anniversary in 2017. In these 35 years, they performed more than 1,000 times. They traveled across Europe and performed in government celebrations in Belgium, Poland, Switzerland, Serbia, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and the Ukraine. They surprised Prince Charles with a giant music box. Imagine these 150 children dressed in their Seikei costumes that coincidentally overwhelmingly red and white, singing in celebration. 120 children will travel straight from Transylvania, and Hungarian schools in Ontario will send 30 of their students to perform with the Philharmonia. They would bring an unforgettable performance to all who sees them. We are sure they would conquer the audience's hearts. It's important for us to show the taste of our culture to the residents in this region who are our primary target audience. We would like them to know better their neighbors, co-workers, or just fellow residents of Hungarian background. Naturally, we expect a larger audience, that is, Hungarians living in coast to coast in Canada, visitors from the United States and from Europe directly from Hungary, and anyone who is interested in European history and culture. We know that the project requires a tremendous amount of organization and requires the collaboration of Hungarian organizations in Canada and in Ontario and the Kitchener-Waterloo region. This kind of collaboration will improve and strengthen the relationship between the participating organizers as well as the other supporters outside of the community. We have already signed collaboration agreements with Hungarian Pictures TV and the Cambridge Kossuth Club that serves Hungarians living in the Kitchener-Waterloo-Cambridge-Guelph region. The Hungarian government committed $50,000 to support the project. The Hungarian-Canadian Seikei Association is providing $10,000. We also received promises from the cities of Waterloo, Cambridge, Kitchener, and Guelph for providing the venues for the performances. We are convinced that the concerts of the Philharmonia will provide an unforgettable experience.
I think it's very important to show that you have ambassadors which persuade people of their identity by singing nice songs, and I think those children and also the people who guide them are wonderful in what they do. And I think for a small community, it shows that the cultural and national identity is very important, and it can be shown to the rest of the world in a very friendly and pleasant way.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank you for your attention to our presentation. I would like to provide some update about our project. In January, we sent a sponsorship request for the project to the office of the Prime Minister, Honorable Justin Trudeau. Last week, we got a positive response to our Celebrate Ontario grant application. It was accepted, and with $50,000 we have secured from the Hungarian Ministry of Heritage, we accomplished the big step to make this project possible. With the Hungarian Consulate help and support, organize our project to be part of the Ontario 150 celebration in Toronto. The Children Philharmonic director last week met with the Canadian ambassador in Budapest. I meet with the Honorable Melanie Joly, Heritage Minister, and Honorable Bardis Jagger, the Tourist Minister, last week, and all of them expressed their support for the project as well. We feel it is important to introduce our program to all communities in Kitchener. We will arrange the support of the TV radio stations. We will work with the family businesses in Kitchener with the Hungarian origins. Our children, grandchildren, from the Kitchener and Guelph Hungarian Weekend School will be part of the Children Philharmonic. We plan two performances in Kitchener that will be free and open to everyone enjoy. Please help us to be successful with our summer program, with our project funding Kitchener grant application. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, we have a few questions for you, Ms. Takis. Councillor Gazolas.
Yeah, I'm having difficulty in trying to follow here what you're requesting. Your information that you supplied to staff really doesn't show any budget for 2017. Are these activities that you're talking about to take place in 2017, or did they take place last year? I see some figures, actual figures, which I would have thought were for last year. I'm really confused as to what are you looking for?
We had a couple of grant application to City of Kitchener in the last 3 years, because on the first time in 2014 I was met with the Children Philharmonic in Romania, Transylvania places, and we liked to bring them already 2 years ago, and we didn't get any funding, but at that time we could together the advice from the member of the parliament who said that it's 2017, it's going to be Canada 150 celebration, and we have more chance to get the funding for support the group to invite in Canada. And we got that support from the Hungarian government. They will pay for them the airplane ticket, and plus the another $50,000 what we can use here as a project to be finalized and be successful. And yes, we did a couple of applications last year and last year before. And 2014, we didn't get any funding from the city, but we got the funding from the Varelu region, and we did a musical in the Kossuth Club, the outside stage, about our Hungarian history. And the last couple of years give us the chance to organize and helping them to be successful, to be invite them and help them here to performing in Canada, in Ontario actually, because 120 children we have to traveling, and we need 3 buses, and we have to guide them to feeding the 12 days program, but we will invite them.
So this $140,000 for airplane tickets is for this year?
Yes.
So is the budget for
yes,
this?
Yes, I reserved already from the Hungarian government.
So
yes.
is the budget for this year $250,000?
Yes.
And I don't see anything here from the federal government. Have you approached the federal government for money?
Yes, I was
How much
applying.
Have you approached?
Yes, I was applying to funding for the Celebrate Ontario grant. What we got it.
No, that's the,
yes, accepted.
That's the provincial one. How much did you apply for?
It's we were asking the Trillium Foundation too, as I know that this is the provincial also, but we are with the Hungarian consulate in Toronto. We are working on it, the federal level, to go with the children into Ottawa. Is the Ottawa 217, that's Ottawa 150 celebration. But it's the budget, it's really tough because the bus is more than $25,000, the 2 days program with the 3 buses.
How
and
much
we have to really concern about that. And we like to stay in Toronto and Kitchener-Waterloo area.
How much did you ask the province for? How much did you ask for from the province?
From the province, $25,000.
And how much are they going to give you?
We don't know that we got it, that we accepted, but we didn't get it till today. What was the final amount? What
How
we
much
can
did you
receive.
ask for from the federal government?
The federal government, we asking $15,000 by the Hungarian consulate
So that's
from Toronto.
But that's from the Hungarian consulate. But how much from the federal government? How much did the?
We don't know yet. We don't.
How much
get
did you ask for?
But me?
How much did you ask for?
Just $15,000.
Okay, that's $40,000. Neither one of which are in your budget
And
here.
all
So
4 cities we asking and send that in the application. Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, and Guelph, and the Waterloo region. We are applying to $5,000.
do you have any funds available now? Is
Yes, the
Is this the
Hungarian-
first year that you've been requesting funding?
Yes, and we have the $50,000 from the Hungarian government.
Okay, so is this just a one-year thing? After this
No,
year?
we are not invite them next year. No.
Pardon?
We are not. We are doing that. It's a one-time
So
project.
this is, okay, all right, thank you.
Councillor Fernandez?
Yes, Ms. Tekis, you indicated, our staff indicated that you received they were approved and you received $1,000 in 2013 and $1,000 in 2016, but you did not use those funds. Can you help us?
We didn't get any money from here, but we got that from the Hungarian government. We never got any funding from the city of Kitchener or city of Waterloo.
Okay. I guess I'm reading that you did get some, but you didn't use it. So I don't know if that meant that you got it, but it just stayed here in the city because you didn't actually use it. Maybe I can is that correct? Okay. All right. I understand. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Takis, we don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next delegation, Mark Lecomte from the Night Shift Placemaking Festival. Welcome, Mark.
Hi there. Thanks everyone for having me here. So I'm from the Night Shift Festival, which has been happening the last 4 years in downtown Kitchener. It's a one-night-only event. It's an art event where there's multidisciplinary artists, multi-venue, sort of community-engaging festival where people come out and check out different parts of the city, different art exhibits, and we've received funding from you in the past, which is great, and thank you so much for that. And again this year with a $7,500 allotment, and it's broken down into 4,000 cash and 3,500 in kind, and I'm here with the request to just amend that slightly so that we would be receiving 5,000 cash and 2,500 in kind. This is just due to the fact that we spent a lot on printed material last year, so we spent close to $1,000 just at the print shop alone, and ended up with a lot of leftovers that we had no use for after the event, and it was just a bit wasteful, and we're looking to cut down on the amount that we're printing there. So there was also a 24-hour dolly project, which was in the main lobby downstairs, which some of you may remember happening, and that was another in-kind expense that was covered. We will not be doing an exhibit similar to that this year, so the budget, the in-kind budget for that also would be decreased. So just looking to switch those amounts up slightly. That's pretty much it.
Okay, Mark, thank you. We do have some questions for you. Councillor Gazzola.
Yeah, I'm really not sure where you're coming from. They've awarded you the same $7,500, whether it's in cash or in kind. To me, it's all the same. So, I'm just curious, though. It appears that last year you got $7,500 from the region. Have you asked them for some money for this year?
I'm not entirely sure if they've been asked. I know that the City of Kitchener is matching what they gave us last year, though, and we are operating on a fairly small scale.
We would like it if you'd ask the region for the $7,500.
Okay.
It's all the same to you. You're asking, it says federal government for $12,000. Have you heard anything from that?
No, not yet.
Do you expect to get that, or?
It's, I don't know, really. It would just, it's up in the air. Hopefully we do. The goal is for us to be able to increase programming while sort of scaling back on the size of the event throughout the city. We want to sort of tighten it up and bring all the exhibits a little bit closer together. And, you know, the more money we have to pay artists, the more we can do, the better it is, the more people will come out, and, you know, we can have growth in that sense.
I'm still somewhat confused in that staff did approve $4,000 in cash instead of the $5,000, or and $3,500 instead of the $2,500, and I think they've done it on the basis that you actually needed $3,500 last year,
right?
From in kind, which is the same as cash,
right?
And so they just basically are doing what you actually experienced last year. So why isn't that sufficient?
Well, you know, I was just I guess I wanted solidification that it would be 5,000 cash and 2,500 in kind. I mean, I don't know the exact specifics of how that works, but I know that our in kind that we did receive last year, which was 3,500, we did max that out pretty much. We used that.
You had to pay something then.
Sorry?
You used more than you were allotted, so you had to pay for it, right?
We did not use more than we were allotted.
Well, you needed 3,500, and you only had 2,500 allotted to you.
Last year, I was under the impression it was 3,500 allotted to us. of which we used, but we're sort of just working with what we had. You know, we sort of printed more than we needed to, and so.
Well, our figures show that we had that you had $2,500 allotted to you. It's okay. So they're really, in a sense, you're basically getting what you asked for. So
okay,
I'll
that's
leave
great.
it at that.
Thank you. Councillor Marsh.
Thank you, Mark, for your presentation. So, does Night Shift pay the artists that are
yes,
giving up their time and energy and creativity to?
Yeah. So all the artists, you know, they'll come in with different exhibitions. They will cost different amounts of money. Our curation is that we choose exhibits that fit our budget, that are exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah, the artists would get paid varying amounts based on what they're bringing.
Yeah, and is it based on a standardized way of determining what artists, you know, what artists' fees should be? I mean, we received I'll just give you some context. We received a presentation not long ago from a new organization called ArtsPay, that was encouraging everyone, including nonprofits like Night Shift, to be able to pay the artists in a fair way so that we can have strong arts and culture scene here in Kitchener.
Okay. So
my question is, are you paying the artists in terms what would be considered from your understanding, what would be considered by the artists a fair fee?
That's the goal. Yeah, so we're covering sort of material costs and stuff like that. If we could pay more, that would be great.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, yeah,
sure.
But we are making sure that all the artists are compensated in a satisfactory manner.
Okay, thank you. At the appropriate time, I will have additional questions for staff and recommendation.
Okay, we'll take those after all delegations. Thank you. Thank you, Mark, for coming in. That's all the questions. Our next delegation is Joan Cholinsky from the Sexual Assault Support Center of Waterloo Region. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy International Women's Week, everyone. My name is Sarah Kastman, and I am the Executive Director of the Sexual Assault Support Center of Waterloo Region. This is my colleague, Joan Teklinski. She's our Public Education Manager. So thank you for allowing us to speak with you today. Our center is a community-based, not-for-profit organization. We have two mandates. The first is to support survivors of sexual violence. We listen, we bear witness, facilitate healing, and celebrate resiliency. The second is to work to transform systems which promote gender-based violence and create safer communities. Part of Joan's role at our center is to manage our Male Allies program. This is a unique program that engages boys and men in the work to end gender-based violence in our community. So as you know, earlier this year, we applied for a Tier 2 community grant of $7,500, which we were denied for. And so we're here to appeal the decision, and I'm going to pass the floor to Joan.
Thanks, Sarah. Good afternoon. We believe our Male Allies program, which has been going for 9 years, fits under the Community Services and Development and reflects the City of Kitchener's strategic plan for safe and thriving neighborhoods. The focus of the program is engaging boys and men to be leaders in ending gender-based violence. The program provides facilitated opportunities for boys and men to engage in conversations and understand the impact of their words and actions. This can reduce male violence not only against girls and women, but other males and those who identify as trans people or gender nonconforming persons. In the past 11 months, we've reached over 4,139 young men and boys. We have 2 full-time male staff members in the program. Our 12-week Young Men's Group provides a supportive structure and safe space for participants in grades 7 and 8 to connect with their male peers and positive male role models from the community. For many participants, this group represents the first time that they've been given permission to make themselves vulnerable in front of other boys and men. The personal growth of participants over the course of the 12-week group is truly outstanding. It is a chance to talk about feelings, healthy masculinity, healthy relationships, communication, and so much more. We recently worked with the Ontario Hockey League to create curriculum for all OHL Junior A teams. Our Male Allies Coordinator, Stephen Soucy, facilitated the training with the Kitchener Rangers this past fall. Evaluations of Male Allies programming demonstrate changes in attitudes and behaviors that can lead to increased safety in our community, which is part of the City of Kitchener's mandate. Increased safety also increases the quality of life for everyone in our community. The City of Cambridge provides financial support for the annual Equal Are We conference that our Male Allies program helps organize. Our agency does not get the funds directly as it goes through the Cambridge YWCA, but I believe it is valued at $5,000. City of Cambridge also provides approximately $4,300 in annualized funding to support our agency services in Cambridge. We are asking for the City of Kitchener to support the Male Allies program by providing $7,500 or another determined amount so we can partner on increasing safety in our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We do have a question for you. Councillor Gazzola.
Yeah, I guess I should mention too that I would like to make some recommendations when it's all over.
Okay.
I have to
I'll take all the recommendations once all the delegates are through. And through just questions to staff.
Where do you get most of your funding from?
So our agency has lots of different programs and services. The agency overall is funded by the provincial government for some of our direct services. We get funding from the region of Waterloo. We get funding from the Astley Family Foundation and a lot of fundraising and donations.
Yeah, I see that because you've supplied a lot of good information to us, so it's all there. I'm not clear as to why all of a sudden you're asking the City of Kitchener this year for funding.
So previously we had some foundation funding from some foundations, and we were trying to stabilize some funding locally for this program, because as many know, it's time-consuming to go after numerous foundations. It's not that we don't continue to get funding, but we felt like what we're offering does meet the City of Kitchener mandate around safety in our neighborhood, and that's what we're providing through our Male Allies program.
I just want to add to that piece too. A couple of years ago, we made a very conscious effort to start reaching out for local funders, because while we really appreciate the funds we have from the provincial government, we realized a few years ago that if you look at the population growth in our region, we were getting 60% of the per capita funding that we did 20 years ago to support our community. So we were really feeling it in terms of the waiting lists for all our programs, counseling, and our public education and our Male Allies program. So this is part of our appeal to work locally to serve our community.
When you say you were getting 60% of your funding, from whom?
So our core funding, which is from the province, the Ministry of the Attorney General.
They're the culprits.
We've expanded a lot of our programs and grown them to meet the demand in the community. So.
Yeah, you take. Now, it says here that you did get something from us last year, but I don't see it reflected anywhere.
So we received funding for the Take Back the Night event, which we had been running annually. So that was a small amount of money we were getting each year under Tier 1 grants. And we are not organizing Take Back the Night this year, and that's why we decided to switch to the Male Allies programming, which is very specific to increasing safety in our community.
What happened to Take Back the Night?
We've decided that we're going to focus our resources on the programming that we're doing versus running an annual event.
Were you the lead on that pro?
Yes, we were.
And so has it now been dropped?
Actually, one of the things we're going to work with the community on this year is encouraging some of the student groups at the universities and colleges that were really passionate about the work to take leadership. And so we provide a support role, but not the leadership role.
Okay, you've answered all of the questions and how you do tie into a lot of the missions that we're interested in, but you are a social service, and we, as part of our criteria for supporting groups is that we do not, you do good work and you deserve to be supported, but unfortunately we don't have the base because you are a social service. So.
We believe this is part of community development and support, and our Male Allies program is basically we go elsewhere to find programming for that program. So the Astley Family Foundation has been supporting it and partnering for 7 years. We have other money. We're partnering right now with the Cambridge YWCA to provide some programming from our Male Allies program. So all the funding for the Male Allies program is coming from other sources.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Urbanovic.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming in and for all of the great work that you do in our community in this regards. So right now you're coming to us looking for a contribution. Are you approaching the other municipalities as well?
So the City of Waterloo at this time is not offering any grants that fit this program. We looked at what they offer. As I said, City of Cambridge has for 2 years been supporting Equal Are We Conference, which our Male Allies program is involved in because it's about engaging boys and men in ending gender-based violence. So they are contributing through that conference.
And also, just to clarify, the City of Cambridge actually supports our services in Cambridge. They provide annualized funding for our counseling program as well. So that's kind of the avenue we've gone with Cambridge, and our focus here is on safer communities for Kitchener.
And in terms of the funding, I mean, will part of it be needed for space and so on, or is it all staffing resources?
The majority of it is for staffing resources, and a lot of that staffing works with the number of volunteers. There's a number of men that volunteer in our Male Allies program that help deliver the services, but the majority is actually just for staffing, benefits, and then like basic resources to run the program. We have a beautiful new space, if anyone hasn't seen it, that does have the rent for our Male Allies program is covered.
Okay. The last question I guess I have, and I mean this is sort of where it gets difficult, is you indicated, Waterloo doesn't have really funding for this type of program, and this is where the challenge becomes, because our funding programs really aren't designed for this kind of work either, and so that's why staff made the recommendation that they did. Having said that, though, I agree that this work is extremely important. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about sort of what's happening in this field in general in our community, just so that council has an appreciation of how important this work is.
I'd be glad to talk about this. So our young men's group has been in 4 schools in Kitchener, as well as other schools in the region. And we have reached over 4,000 youth and young males in this community. And what we find when we do our evaluations show us that there are changes in the attitudes and behaviors from being part of a group. And it's very important they're part of a group where conversation is happening. It's not online, it's talking together, an opportunity to be encouraged. And Stephen Susi, my colleague who's the coordinator in the program, lets me know that with the 12-week programming with grade 7 and 8 boys, Usually up until week 6, during the check-in time when they're asked how they're doing or what's happening in their lives, they just go, fine, okay. But after week 6, they actually start naming the struggles they're going through, the challenges they're going through, or some of the things they're celebrating in their life. And it takes relationship building and trust building to get to that point, and then to have the serious conversations about healthy relationships and consent around healthy masculinity and toxic masculinity and the messages they get in society on what it means to be a man. And it gives them a safe place to have those conversations. And I don't know of anybody else really having those, and we've been doing it since 2008, and we were the first sexual assault centre in Ontario to provide this service. And we see ourselves as leaders in this work. We have 2 male staff working full-time right now with the various grants, with Cambridge working in partnership. And we want to continue this work, and we can't meet the demand that's coming into our office because there's such high demand to have these programmings in grade 7 and 8, but also high school and in our local post-secondary schools.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So thank you. We have Councillor Singh.
Yes, thank you, ladies, for coming forward and really kind of making us aware of what the organization does as well. So do you guys, of course, it's absolutely essential for us to work with our youth, especially at-risk individuals as well, at an early on stage, to counter these type of issues. Do you work within the various community centers as well, outside of schooling atmosphere, where there's programming or awareness or structured programs, mentorship of all the things that you do, but through
Yes.
working with a neighborhood association or the rec associations?
We've worked with the downtown Kitchener Association, having programming there. We also do training with City of Kitchener staff for summer programming. We do training, and we have provided training in the past for that. So we like to work in partnership. We've done programming out of the Kitchener Library for the past couple of years.
Now, you said the extra monies that you're requesting out of City of Kitchener would go towards staffing. So that would allow for increased capacity of your engagement then? And what of that would mean a translation to, again, our neighborhoods and our city?
So right now we actually have a waiting list from local schools that want to have our young men's group in their schools. So basically, if we didn't receive the funding, we just have to provide less, but we do have a waiting list already. We actually have a waiting list for all of our services. When the question was asked, can you touch on, what's happening with sexual violence and gendered violence in our community, Joan talked about the public education piece, but more broadly, this is a very significant issue that's impacting our community and communities across Canada. And we, right now we have waiting lists for all of our services, not just our public education, but so it would basically mean that we would just reach less of our community.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
One more up left. Councillor Fernandez.
Hello. I see that you have engaged with our Kitchener Rangers for some funding.
Yes.
And sorry, of course I lost the budget now. $1,500, I think, is what you've received from them in the past?
That was in-kind donations. They ran our public service announcements last year because of the arrangement we had with providing training.
Right. Have you, the reason I'm not intending to pick on them, so to speak, but have you approached them for some actual cash funding? Because what a great organization that, promotes sports and healthy community building. I mean, they're always in our community, and they're great. They could be great mentors. Have you approached them for the $1,500, for more money, rather?
The OHL itself helped contribute to the creation of curriculum with funding, actual funding. And it was basically left up to various centres across Ontario to work out deals with their own hockey league. We actually have a really good relationship with the Rangers, who provide us with signed sticks, community space, and then for the first time this year, not only getting a discount on our public service advertising, but actually paying for the fall showing of it. We have not approached them for cash. We've been, kind of told they are their own nonprofit organization, and so we haven't seen that as a source of funding. We may in the future be able to ask for some funds for the training we provide, but I expect it would be a very small amount of a few $100s.
Okay, and I can appreciate that. I mean, it sounds like they really have stepped up and have been very helpful. You also mentioned the school boards are asking for you to come into the schools a bit more. Have they, I couldn't see any funding from them. Did you receive anything?
No, we haven't. Right now, we're not working with the school boards directly, except we're on the sexual health youth strategy through Region of Public Health. And so it's been individual child and youth workers, principals, vice principals, and teachers who have invited us in. So we haven't gotten paid for those services. And we don't want to discourage them from having us come in and supporting the newer curriculum as well that they're working with.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. We have no further questions.
Thank you.
Our next delegation is Rebecca Sargent, the Healing Hands of the Seven Generations. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Donna Dubé. I'm the founder and the Executive Director of Healing of Seven Generations, and I'm honored that you have allowed us to come here today to appeal the grant. I'll turn it over to my sister, Rebecca.
Hi there. Thank you. Canadians' history with Native peoples has been fraught with oppression and marginalization for generations. Hundreds of thousands of Native children were ripped from their homes and family in a brutal form of cultural genocide, where their language, culture, history, teachings were taken from them as they were placed into residential schools. This has had devastating repercussions throughout the years on our people. Statistics show us that nearly 1/3 of Native peoples have less than a high school education, compared to around 10% of non-Native adults. Only 7% make it to university, compared to nearly 1/4 of non-Native adults in Canada. Native individuals are nearly 16% less likely than non-Native adults to be employed, and those that are employed have a median income of less than just over $22,000 a year, below the poverty line. The suicide rates are out of control. The incarceration rates are higher than any other group in the country. These effects ripple through every single indicator of well-being for the Native community. Around 7% of all Native peoples are senior citizens. The average Canadian senior relies on Canadian pension plans for about 21% of their income, and many others have private pension plans to supplement as well. Native seniors of tax-exempt status were forbidden from making contributions to Canadian pension plans until the late 80s and early 90s. As a result, many now live in limbo with neither public nor private pensions, or severely limited ones, and are thus entirely dependent on social transfers for their income. Many of our patrons are rightly fearful of government-led services and thus simply do without. The Healing of the Seven Generations Centre services the nearly 15,000 Native people living within the Kitchener-Waterloo region, and primarily deals with the brutal legacy and history of the residential school system in Canada. Our centre currently serves approximately 700 to 900 Native seniors per year, and we are the only self-run Indigenous centre in the community that provides these types of culturally appropriate services. The services our centre offers range from housing assistance, court assistance, cultural reconnections, and social support, through traditional teachings, healing circles and ceremonies, social events, and community building. Our centre's budget is currently only around $90,000 a year, including all wages and operating budget, which leaves us paying our court worker and director less than reasonable wages. Our seniors are suffering. Many are in need of great assistance, healing, and culturally appropriate services that our centre provides. The funding we are requesting would allow us to run weekly seniors programs, a specialized food bank to help supplement specialized diets with needs for medical needs, as well as to obtain necessary assistive devices such as reading glasses, walkers, and canes not covered by any other programs, and transportation costs to doctor's appointments and to the centre. The seniors program would take place weekly on Thursdays and would include activities such as card games, crafts, drum circles, cooking, storytelling, etc., and would be a chance for our community to engage socially with others in their situation. There are currently no services in the community specifically designed for this population. The weekly program would also hire facilitators for specialized projects, such as a medicine garden and culturally specific crafts that also carry with them the traditional knowledge and spirituality. We would like to provide a small snack or meal for the seniors attending the weekly program, as well as a food bank for our financially insecure senior patrons who have difficulty obtaining services due to cultural barriers. Many of our seniors are living well below the poverty line and are in great need of assistive devices such as canes, walkers, eyeglasses, diabetes strips, etc., that are currently not covered by any other program. We would like to help supplement some of the costs of these types of things for our clients in need so that they are not choosing assistive devices over things like food or heat. They often have difficulty getting to their doctor's appointments, and we would like to help those in need with accompaniment or transportation to clinics, hospitals, and social service offices. With all the treaties still not settled, our communities are left begging for money just to provide the basic services to our community members living in this populated city. We are without the necessary court workers who can respect our traditions and needs in the courtrooms. We are without facilitators to run our programming, and we are relying entirely on the generosity of our volunteers to provide the basic of services to our community. We are without grant writers, a necessity in an impoverished and undereducated sector to secure our future, and left in limbo of desperately needing basic funding, yet not having the capabilities to properly fill out forms to get that funding. Requests for funding are repeatedly denied because of cultural communication differences, and little assistance is provided to better our chances. As a result, our community is forgotten. Just as our cultural traditions are undergoing a renaissance, our baseline funding for support core activities is being denied, and all requests for specialized programming is refused. Without these types of programmings, our language, heritage, and culture face the danger of being decimated even further, while many are just starting on their path to healing and reconnecting to their stolen history. We hear all the time in the media about the government's care for our well-being, yet see so little of those actions into words. Action for those words. Even though we remain one of the only Native service providers in our community, we are almost close to shuttering our doors due to lack of funding. We receive little to no feedback or assistance to better our chances of getting approved for grants, even though there is often significant cultural barriers for us to do so. We appeal to you to please provide us with the $10,000 that we have asked for to provide the basic programming for our seniors. Without it, we'll do without. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have some questions for you. Councillor Gazzola.
When you talk about our seniors, who are those geographically? Are those Kitchener seniors? Or?
They're within the Kitchener-Waterloo region, yes. Our centre is located in Kitchener on Frederick Street, and we serve primarily the urban centre people.
Have you asked Waterloo for any help?
We've asked everybody.
I don't see Waterloo on the list here.
We got...
There was zero results.
There was zero, yeah, we didn't receive funding. We didn't receive funding for any of the things that we've asked for.
In the past, you've always asked the region of Waterloo for assistance. You don't have them on the list for having asked them this year, or did you ask them and they said no?
We did ask them. We have been denied all funding, yes.
And did they explain why they've supported you in the past? And
we just keep getting refused. We think it's you want to go ahead? Sorry.
We've been refused in the past because of, on the application, because we've been told it has to do with wording. Our request for funds doesn't fit the criteria of their proposal. Whatever reason, we've been denied funding from various funding sources, from the 3 levels of government to city level to small organizational donors to, and it's like that right across the board. So we've tried everywhere.
I appreciate what you're doing, and there's no question that your work is important and there's a lot of work to be done. But it appears that the bulk of your funding does come from the province, right?
Pardon me?
The bulk of your funding does come from the province.
It does, yes, 100%.
Yeah. Is there anything from the federal government?
Honestly, if I can speak honestly, what I would like to say is any level of government doesn't take responsible when Native organizations apply for funding. Everybody points the finger and says it's the province's responsibility or it's the federal responsibility, and then that all comes back down. So that right now, like we're here today, speaking with the city, and then we go through that back and forth, year after year, decade after decade.
So we're the last resource. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
We have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm honored for being here today. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, our last delegation, Arlene Thomas from the Multicultural Theatre Space. Welcome, Arlene.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and staff. My name is Arlene Thomas, and I am an artistic associate at the Empty Space. I'm here today to appeal the decision concerning Empty Space's most recent Tier 2 grant request submitted on December 4th, where we requested funding for our Impact 17 International Theatre Festival. Specifically, we requested in-kind funding for facility rental, printing and signage, and transportation and parking. The grant was denied because the project in question was deemed part of our regular activities, which are funded by Tier 1 support from the City of Kitchener. However, we are launching a new segment of Impact 17 called Theatre for Young Audiences, which is above and beyond our regular activities, and we wish to clarify that this is the aspect of the festival for which we are seeking in-kind support. Theatre for Young Audiences, or TYA, will be presented in partnership with the Joseph Schneider House and will feature several different activities for children and youth ages 5 and up: the Family Pavilion, theatre productions, and a youth conference. We have several reasons for wanting to add a TYA component to our festival at this time. First, based on feedback from previous Impact festivals, we are aware that our audiences want theatre that they can attend with their families. Most of our regular festival programming is not targeted towards children and youth, so it is important for us to create theatre experiences that they can be part of as well. It is also important that youth have a say in the kinds of arts experiences they want to have. Although there are several companies in the region that offer performance opportunities for youth, there are not many that create theatre for young audiences and none that offer theatre experiences that reflect the stories of culturally diverse and Indigenous youth. Our TYA component will offer children and youth from ages 5 and up the opportunity to provide feedback on what they see, feedback that we can use for future festivals and events. Possibly the most important reason for us to offer a TYA program at Impact at this time is the Empty Space's mandate to explore cultural intersections amongst people, their histories, and their forms of expression. We provide theatre by and for all of the diverse cultural groups in our region and provide people with a sense of belonging. This city and our whole region, like many areas of the country, has just welcomed refugee families from Syria, and we would like them to feel a sense of belonging as well. It is important to us in 2017, on the 150th anniversary of Ontario and Canada, that we provide theatre at which all families will be welcome. For Theatre for Young Audiences, the Empty Space will host performances by national, international, and local artists. We will animate the Joseph Schneider House with storytellers and activities with the hope of creating an intersection between the colonial history of our region, newcomers, and Indigenous peoples. We will also host a youth theatre conference for ages 8 to 12 and 13 plus. In February of this year, we saw what can be the result of opening theatre to newcomer families when we hosted a double bill featuring 2 Syrian artists, Nada Humsi, who has made Kitchener her home for many years, and Ahmed Mirey, who arrived from Syria in 2016. We encouraged everyone, especially Syrian newcomers, to come and bring their families, and they did. During one memorable performance, at a particularly silent and profound moment in the show, a baby started to cry. After the show, a man from the audience commented that he thought the baby had added to the moment rather than distracted from it because it reminded him that these children were part of the story they were witnessing on stage. Families enjoy seeing theater together, and it allows for an enriched experience for everyone. We want the children in this community to be part of the theater and to feel like they belong at theater events, and so we have created TYA as part of Impact 17. In order to make TYA a reality, we do need some in-kind support from the City of Kitchener because there will be different and additional marketing costs specifically in the areas of printing and signage for TYA and the Family Pavilion, as well as parking and transportation for the families and artists we'd like to participate. We would also like to use the Kitchener Public Library for some of the TYA shows because it's close to the Joseph Schneider House and it is a centre for community and families. We are requesting in-kind support for that as well. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, and I hope you will consider our request.
Okay, thank you, Arlene. We do have several questions for you. Councillor Gazzola.
Your organization has decided to go into a different direction or additional direction to include the TYA. Yeah, when was that decision made?
Sorry, could you say that again?
When was that decision made to try to serve another segment of our population?
It was made in 2016 specifically for Impact 17. That's when we wanted to launch it.
When you made it, did you have plans on how it's going to be funded? And
yes, we have been applying to other grants, Ontario and so on, certainly Ontario and regional grants.
And how did you make out?
How did
you make out with those additional requests?
We have funding from Ontario 150, Celebrate Ontario, the Trillium Foundation, OCAF, the Region of Waterloo Arts Fund, and the Good Foundation.
I see the Region of Waterloo. I don't see any funding beside it.
So a lot of these would not have been announced when the Tier 2 grant was due. In fact, we only found out about Celebrate Ontario last week.
But you don't, in your budget here, you don't even have a request from Waterloo Arts Fund.
Oh, okay. So that budget was a preliminary impact budget. And so it may not reflect everything that we applied for.
How have you made out from the Ontario Arts Council? Did you get the $30,000 from them?
Ontario Arts Council. Yeah, that's part of our regular operating funding, which we apply part of to Impact.
Okay. How about the federal grant? Is that you've asked them for $20,000 more than last year? How did you?
Is that Canada Council you're referring to? Or?
Yes, Canada Council.
Okay. Again, operating funding that we apply to Impact every year.
That's a 30% increase from them. Just for regular funding. What are you doing?
Sorry, Amanda Lowry is she's the general manager. She's going to answer some of these questions because she's got more numbers in her head than I do.
Thank you. So the amount that we receive from both the federal and provincial governments for operating is above and beyond that, and it funds both our regular season activities as well as the Impact Festival. So it's just a matter of, in an Impact year, how much are we allotting to the Impact Festival versus to our regular season.
But it's a substantial increase when you start looking at 25-30% increase. And as I went through all of your expenditures, everything is up 22, 23, 30%. Mm-hmm. We had to struggle to keep our taxes within the inflation rate. So how do you justify those kinds of increases?
Can you remind me, is that budget for, is it showing 16-17 versus 17-18 or 15?
I'm reading here that the left-hand column was, I'm not sure, last year's budget, then you show actual expenditures, and then you show a proposed budget, which I assumed was for 2017.
Yeah, it's more than likely, it's because the festival that we do is biennial. So in a non-impact year, our budget is significantly smaller, whereas during an impact year, there's a lot of additional expenditures and funding.
And I appreciate this, and this happened many years ago where you went switching to an every other year. So, it was obvious that this is the year, so I'm sort of confused as to why you haven't taken that into account. But that's fine. It appears that you want to get into some new programs, which are probably very justified, but it's difficult. So thank you very much.
Councillor Fernandez.
Thanks for your enthusiasm. You're asking for in-kind funding. Have you been able, because you mentioned the KPL, Downtown Kitchener Library, what other, and you mentioned some posters and other sort of media support, right? Have you been able, or would you be able to break out what, or maybe our staff can, I don't know, what the cost of, because right now we're looking at $10,000, right? So have you been able to break out what each one of those components would be? So if, for example, you knew what the in-kind would be if you were just to go with the library in-kind or just the signage in-kind?
Because we have never received this in-kind support before, I don't know the exact numbers, especially for the venues in question, but I can say that in terms of printing, we spend, even on our festival brochure, festival programs alone is nearly $5,000 that we spend on printing. So it is a significant amount of our funding that goes towards that, and having that extra in-kind support would be very helpful. That's money that could go instead towards artists, staff, etc.
Right. And how long are you planning, like, how long is this festival that you're planning?
How long is the festival?
How long is it, like the special, I'm expecting that this is going to be a youth program. Mm-hmm. Is it a weekend? Is it one night?
Oh, okay. So the festival itself runs from September 26th to October 1st. The TYA component will begin on the Wednesday of the festival and go through to the Sunday of the festival. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 5 days.
Okay, so 5 days, and you're looking for venue support as well as printing support, sort of as a starting point for this.
Yes, and transportation and parking support as well, because those needs will go up when we're bringing families in to see shows and that sort, and also the artists that have to come in and park for the day.
Okay, so when you say transportation, you're thinking about busing, bus passes, is that what you're...
Yeah, we try very hard to make our festival as accessible as possible, and that includes making it accessible to low-income families. Mm-hmm. Other programs that we've done, we have handed out bus tickets to youth and things along those lines. So for artists as well as for people attending the festival, it's something that we would like to be able to provide just to make sure that it really is accessible to everyone.
Okay, so have you approached the region for transportation funding?
No, we have not.
No, we did get a grant from the Region of Waterloo Arts Fund, but it was not for transportation funding. In fact, the Arts Fund doesn't fund that sort of thing. They will fund the project, but very often, well, they won't fund things like transportation and that sort of thing.
Okay, and I understand that. I'm just thinking that for this TYA programming or the festival that you might want to, I'm just thinking if it might be better to have broken out all the funding opportunities or the funding needs. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Marsh.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. So I don't know to what degree you've already checked out the possibility to use the library space, but we can't offer you in-kind space at the library. They have their own board and their own staff, and so but I know as a person who sits on the library board that they do actually have a lot of good relationships with theater companies and being able to find a good workable solution. So I just wondered, have you already approached the KPL as of yet?
We have in past years, and we haven't had much success using that venue, and we'd like that to change because, of course, there is an excellent venue downstairs, and it would be fabulous to have some of Impact in there. So certainly we would be very, very open to a conversation with them.
Sure. Well, I think that maybe years past might not be reflective of what's happening currently. So that's something to really consider. And then also, I don't know what will happen today, but regardless, transportation and parking, is something that might be considered separately from this in-kind grant. So it's something else to talk about down the road. So in your proposal, I don't know if this was covered in your answers to Councillor Fernandez, so forgive me if it was, but did you actually break out the youth theatre conference that you're planning in your proposal?
I think when we were writing the proposal, we were so focused on the in-kind support we needed from you, we didn't break it out and we didn't make it clear enough, which understandably is why staff wouldn't have recommended it. So that's why we came today.
Yeah.
Because we were looking so much at the in-kind support, I don't think we made it clear enough why we needed that support.
Okay. So, I mean, it's hard when we understand that nonprofits are sometimes under pressure to apply to so many different grants. It's hard to keep it all clear as mud. But I'm just wondering, is this a one-time thing, or are you planning to incorporate the youth aspect in the next Impact festivals down the road?
We are planning to incorporate it into the next festival. However, because this is a biennial festival, so every 2 years, that means we have the opportunity, once that section of the festival is rolling, to explore other avenues for getting support for things. So we don't envision applying for the same grants over and over and over and over and over again. We, for example, would like to look for sponsorship, because sponsorship for youth programs does happen. So,
Okay. Yeah, it's a tricky one because it wasn't clear in the application. I know. So then, but anyway, I'd be happy to connect you with the KPL, the right people to talk to afterwards.
That would be very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Councillor Gazzola.
No, I'm just at the point where I wanted to put the staff recommendation on the table to start with, so we could go from there. I wanted to move the staff recommendation, but I do have some questions of staff.
Okay, we will take the recommendation once we get through staff's questioning of staff. So we have no further questions for you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So now, if you want to click in for questions of staff, please do. Councillor Gazzola.
Yeah, I want to ask staff a few questions on starting at 7.7. I just want to go through a few of these to get your comments. Like the first one is the age of majority. We're granting them 27% higher than we did last year. What is the reasoning behind that? I'm concerned are the cost of our facilities going up by that amount of money?
I think they're going to be using the facilities more.
Well, that's it. So
right.
It's not a question of our facilities going up, but they're using them more.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where we should be going? Because if they decided to triple their use, will they get that automatically because it's our facility they're using?
To the chair, actually last year, because they didn't know about the grant approval, they couldn't use the rooms early. They didn't make a commitment to use the rooms, so it was really a partial use of the rooms for the year. And now that they received funding for 1 year, I think they just hoped they would receive funding to use it for 12 months of the year. So the cost did increase because of that.
Okay, and that's fine, but I just, didn't want it to sound like it's a free lunch out there. And you can just... All right, if I go then to A space on the bottom of on 7.8, there again there's a 42% increase. Now, is that they want to use it more, or is it Are we charging more? But, I mean, these are substantial increases that...
Similar to the previous one, these were, again, new groups that came on board, and they didn't use the facility from the beginning. And now they want to, because they had success in their programming, they would like to have it for the 12 months.
I'm going to keep you two on, because instead of just clicking you on and off, because that's you're the two primary. And we do have several other members that are going to ask questions.
Okay, my next question, I'll keep going as long as I have my... On 710, I'm just curious, we have both the Central Frederick neighborhood and the Cherry Park neighborhood, and I'm just wondering how this fits in now with our new neighborhood strategy, and we have grants available there. Is there some overlap here? It may be a question for another day that maybe you're not...
Through you, Mr. Chair. The short answer is the one matching grant that was approved through the neighborhood strategy is for the most part focused on capital type issues as opposed to events like this.
Okay. On page 711, there's CKMS radio. We're providing funds to assist with changing all media to, what is that? To a new station frequency. Did the radio station change something and it's costing us money? Or?
They gave away their frequency to another group. I'd have to look up the name of the group.
Okay, let's, on top of 712, there's again a 33% increase in what we're paying.
The Community Music School has a large waiting list. The committee determined the program was very successful and important to the community and made a decision to increase their grant to shorten the wait list, which is quite long. And the group does a lot with very little money.
Okay, the COPS program, they're going to go from tier 2 to tier 1. And what they get this year is going to be sort of inked in, and that's what they're going to get for years to come. But all of a sudden, it's a 25% increase. This is a bad year to give them such an increase. Is there some explanation, or?
It was, yes, there were transportation costs that were new to take the kids to the camp. There was different types of transportation they were using, and they requested this increase. The committee made a decision to grant it. And
they're going to be there forever, those different transportation costs?
They'll be coming through Tier 1. We'd have to look at that.
You'll watch that in Tier 1 next year, right? Okay. Art Gallery on page 715, they already get $305,000. Why are we giving them an additional $2,500? Is that fair?
I can't answer to the fairness. Tier 1 groups are eligible to apply for special one-time projects only, and the Art Gallery does take advantage of that and has some good programming and submits a request.
All right. KW Musical Productions, again, a 25% increase. Is this increased usage, or is it our increased costs that are causing that? Or?
One of the goals of the group was to have the venue used a lot more than it currently is. I think it's not in a mainstream location, and what they want to do is ask for an increase to do more marketing, to attract rentals, to increase their rental base, hopefully going forward.
Okay, Councillor Gazzola, can you please ring back in? Your time allotted is up. Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So with some of the organizations that have come before us, I'll start off with the Royal Medieval Fair. Obviously, the recommendation is 0. Would you like to give some rationale to that? And I wanted to see if our events planning staff could give some input if in future years this festival were to be in Kitchener. would we automatically provide in-kind support with helping organize that event in our city?
Through the chair, the rationale for denying the grant or recommending that is that the application was received after the due date and it was considered incomplete because the applicant group did not use the mandatory template.
Yeah, they were pretty candid and humble in saying that they made that error. Obviously, this is a volunteer-based organization. So, in your assessment, had that not been the case, what would have been the recommendation?
It's kind of hard to answer that. I don't mean to.
Did staff still? No, my question to you.
We could have considered the application at that time if it had been submitted on time, and if the mandatory template had been used, then the committee could have considered it. Because it was submitted after the due date and time,
so it wasn't reviewed
we couldn't
at all.
consider it.
Okay. I know it wasn't considered, but you didn't review the application at all. Okay, that's how I was basing it on.
That's the process.
Seeing if you had reviewed it, your opinion had been different if the timing had been a little bit better suited. I don't know if Mr. Young can provide some explanation on my question. If they were to do some planning in the city of Kitchener, would we automatically in future years assist with further in-kind help?
It would depend on what the request was. We'd certainly sit down with the group and look to see what we could do to support them in Kitchener.
With an organization such as this, where they can attract upwards to, they said, 5,000 to 6,000 people, is that a fair size event for a single day?
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be a very good event.
And we would want to entertain the options of having an event like this in our city?
In my world, I want every event in Kitchener, so...
Well, I'd like to hear that. That's why I wanted to get that from your mouth, as opposed to me saying it all. So, all right, thank you very much. The other question I have is for the, for the COPS program. Now, I realize this organization has done phenomenal work, much of it with some guidance and help with our mayor as well in Centreville, Chicopee. Now, it's also expanded its mandate into Kingsdale, is that correct?
Yes, I believe there are 3 communities it's in now.
Now, with the change to going Tier 1, will they be able to, as you said, Tier 1, they can apply for one time for specific projects, so they will have that opportunity to make applications as they look to expand their profile?
Through Tier 1, their only option to expand the COPS program itself would be appealing through Tier 1. So the committees, they would have to appeal the staff recommendation in December as they're brought forward, as other groups do.
And that would give them an opportunity?
Tier 1 can only apply for Tier 2 for special one-time projects, mostly anniversary events and things like that.
Okay, but if they're looking to expand the program, they could,
yes,
though?
Yes, they can apply for extra funds, and then depending on the staff recommendation, it's up to them to appeal the amount to council if they didn't get what they asked for.
Okay, so that's why I wanted to know, that they can, through Tier 1 still, look at increasing funding as well.
Yes, both grant programs have appeal processes in place.
Okay, excellent, thank you. So that would be my questions, Mr. Chair. I have some recommendation for the Royal Medieval Fair, so whenever do you want me to do it now? Or?
No, when the time's appropriate after questions.
Okay, so I'll come back to you for that.
Everyone can race to the button. So, Councillor Fernandez.
I too have a couple of motions that I want to table, but one of the questions I had is we have moved a number of these organizations into the Tier 1 position. It says here that it was for 5 years or more. So you're counting, if something has been like Bring on the Sunshine, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16th as the 5th year. Is that correct?
The process we've been using is the 6th year is the year we request moving them, because the 5th year we don't have council approval yet for that 5th year, so we don't bring them forward until the following year.
Okay. I guess I think it's good that they can count on that, or hopefully count on that that grant money. I just sometimes it feels like we're moving some of these a little bit quickly into our Tier 1 grants, but that's, I guess, I apologize, that's more of a comment. I too had a question around the COPS program and the increase, because I have heard of some very sincere need around the Chandler Mowat area, and that's not my ward, and so it's nothing to do with political, but we've increased the funding for the COPS program where it is now at Kingsdale and Chicopee. Can we not see our way clear to including another at-risk area into that program, or have we done that already?
Mr. May?
Through you, Mr. Chair, maybe I can take that one. There's actually, the COPS program is very specialized to individual neighborhoods. So it's currently run out of 3 centers, Kingsdale, Chicopee, and Mill Cortland. There's actually, starting I think last year, a COPS program at Chandler, but it takes a very different format, and that is a soccer team, which has seen significant success. A partnership where the police and the fire department and community center staff sat down with the neighborhood and decided the best form that it could take there was a soccer team. Having said that, we will continue to look for how we may be able to grow the program at that center.
Okay, thank you. And that's all the questions I have.
Okay. Councillor Marsh, did we have you ready for questions yet? No. Okay, sorry, I'm getting confused from all the other ones. Go ahead.
All right. So first question is just regarding the arts pay recommendations that we received before. Question to staff: when you're looking at funding some festivals or organizations that are then using part of our grant money to bring in arts acts, whether it's artists or musicians or whomever, are you looking at whether or not they are actually able to fairly pay the artists?
That's difficult to answer generally. Each application is unique, and each application has different artist fees. They're usually in a lump sum. We really have no way of knowing what that breaks down to, whether it's a fair amount or not. Most of the applications, I will say, indicate in order for them to pay fair wages to the artist, they do need the funding. Yeah. That's not something we can usually determine from an application, at least not generally. Some have more specifics. If it's a smaller event, we can determine the artist fees, but I don't think we have any charts we use to compare.
Okay. All right. And, we received the appeal from the Sexual Assault Support Center. Sorry, I'm getting the name wrong. Women's Crisis Services. And I'm just wondering if you can elaborate on why the committee did not fund their proposal, even though it is they're proposing that it is it would fall under community development.
The group has indicated that they think it falls under community development. The assessment committee decided that it didn't meet the criteria for being a municipal responsibility.
Do you have any additional information about that to help us make a decision?
Mr. May?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think I would draw your attention to one very specific word on the appeal sheet, which is that it's not a direct city responsibility. So the delegation spoke about the contribution that it makes to safe and thriving neighborhoods. I don't disagree with that one little bit, but so do a whole bunch of other things like schools and education, and that's not a direct city responsibility either. And that's exactly what these grants are designed to do, for direct responsibilities of the municipality.
Okay. All right. For now, those are all the questions I have, but I just want to make note, Chair, I noticed that I think in terms of the race to push the buttons, I think I was first to mention something about a proposal, so if you don't mind just making note of that.
I'll make note of it. Okay, Councillor Davey.
Thank you. A couple, I guess, more broad questions. It seems to me like this is the most appeals we've had in recent memory. First of all, is that the case? And if so, can staff speculate as to why that is?
I believe in the last 4 or 5 years, we did have 1 year where we had 10 in 2016. We had 7 appeals, as this year. In 2015, we had 2. In 2014, we had 10. So I wouldn't say this is unusual. I think at the beginning, when we first moved to this new process, we had less, but they've increased steadily. I can't speak to why, other than perhaps depending on what they feel their success rate is.
Okay.
From previous years.
Very good.
Good answer.
Thank you. In terms of some of the appeal requests before us, the one concern I have is, have we ever had a Tier 1 organization have a Tier 2 grant approved in the past? And what are the implications of that?
Yes, we've had several. As we mentioned earlier, the Art Gallery. They are eligible to apply as long as it's not for the same event at one time. So I think last year the Art Gallery had an anniversary 60th, I believe. Could be wrong.
So why specifically not a recurring event?
Because they're funded through Tier 1, and the understanding is they receive funding through Tier 1 for their operating or events, and any additional amount for that service should be appealed through Tier 1. So those groups are eligible to appeal in December for additional funding, and that's the way the policy is written.
Okay, so the implication would be not meeting the criteria here then potentially would open the floodgates to all of the Tier 1, the hockey groups, all the sports groups, the other organizations to start incorporating Tier 2 grants into their funding models when Tier 2 is really meant for smaller organizations. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. As you can see, Tier 2 gets depleted quickly, and if we start giving Tier 1 groups extra funding, it would leave less for Tier 2, for new and emerging groups every year. And there is an appeal process in place for Tier 1, so they certainly have an opportunity to ask for additional funds.
Okay. And I guess that logic then would extend to all of the other areas that are outside of our jurisdiction, such as social services, et cetera.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I just want to be clear on this too. I do have some concerns that there was 60-odd applicants for Tier 2 this year, and about 40 of those 60 received less or no funds than they applied for. And they did not, most of those did not appeal through this process. So my concern going forward, because I'm hearing a number of people that want to make amendments, I'm going to have to question when these amendments come forward what it is about the criteria that isn't correct, because I do think that we intentionally put this aside for the committee to approve to make sure that there's not political decisions made here. So if these recommendations come forward from whoever, I would really appreciate if those that want to make changes to the committee's recommendations, please explain in your proposal why you think that the change needs to be made and why the criteria was wrong.
Okay, thank you for that. I don't disagree with you. I think that's something I think I'm going to be putting forward in the future. In particular, I do have very big concerns when it comes to next year when it's an election year, and I don't want to politicize all of these decisions on. So I would like to see more of a systematic approach. We don't. Are the people that are currently in the queue, are they finished with all their questions? Except for Councillor Gazzola. Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Gazzola.
Yeah, I'm just about done here. I get out of your hair. Page 726, and I'm sure you have a good reason for it, but I just want to clarify it. We've got 2 organizations there, basketball and boxing, and the request for funds seems almost similar, but one got it and one didn't. Can you sort of explain that?
Through the chair, they're not similar. The Basketball Association is asking for operating funds. We already, through Tier 1, fund an organization, a basketball organization, so that makes them ineligible.
Is that the same organization? The same organization?
No, it's different than the one we fund through minor sports.
Oh, okay.
They're not. We have an affiliated group through minor sports that we fund, so this is just a duplicate service.
Oh, okay.
So it's like certain breakout groups. The Waterloo Region Boxing Academy, they actually, I believe, they do get a Tier 1 grant, which wasn't known at the time. It wasn't identified, so it's not included on there. But they are one of our minor sports groups, and they're eligible to apply for equipment funding through Tier 2.
Okay. Now, my last question is on the WMB Church. They're being moved from Tier 2 to Tier 1, but I don't see any funding that they received in 2016. And I thought the rules were they had to have received funding for the 5 or 6.
Yes, they did receive funding for 5 years. Theirs goes to 2011. Again, this is one of the groups that last year did not submit an application. The online system, they said they did submit an application, but it didn't come through. They just chose not to appeal. So this was when we had the same deadline as this year. They indicated they did, it was months after the fact. They did indicate that they applied, but something didn't work for them and it didn't get submitted. So they just chose not to appeal, but they're continuing on.
Okay, thanks. I just want to make a quick comment and then I will step aside. I just want to compliment staff. I think they have done a good job. It's a tough job to deal with. Just on that, by the way, Mr. Young is on this committee, right? Mm-hmm. So he's represented at the table when those types of situations come up. And I think also Mr. DiDonato's on the committee, plus outside of the City Hall people that are on the committee. Okay. So I think I don't agree with all the things you've done, but I think you've done a good job. It all really hinges on to 727 and 728, which is the criteria that this council has established. Okay, and I think those are where the answers are for what you've done, and also on and all the ones that have appealed. There's a lot of information here. And the committee has explained why they haven't approved it. So I think they've done their homework, and now it's in the political field. So I would like to put forward the recommendation provided by staff. People want to change it, that's fine. They can amend them as they go along. Thank you.
Okay, I'll take that. Good. Glad that part's done. Councillor Marsh.
All right, thank you. I wish that we could grant all of the appeals fully, but I know that I do agree with Councillor Gazzola that staff have done a very good job of along with the citizen volunteers to diligently go through each application, and I can understand, their decisions. However, I think that we need to recognize a few legitimate reasons why we have these appeals here today. And one of them in particular is that, here in the city of Kitchener, we have become known to be an amazing venue for festivals. We had the Blues Fest start here, and it was a tiny little fledgling of a festival in the first couple of years, and now I've heard it called it's Kitchener's Tattoo. It's the Blues Festival, and it is something that we are known for, and a burgeoning little festival that just started out. If it hadn't received early support, who knows whether or not it would even have been able to take hold. I see the Irish Real Life Festival as one that really has legs. This volunteer committee is one that has worked diligently and without. Sure, they're paying for graphic design, but they are not paying for the actual organizing of 17 plus events. And I think that their $4,000 request is a reasonable one. So I would amend the motion. I would move to amend the motion to grant their appeal. And I also, going down, so that was the first request. And then their appeal was for $4,000. The second amendment I would...
Okay. Can you, sorry, you're going a little too fast for me. So what was your second amendment?
I haven't made it yet.
So the 4,000 is for
4,000 for Irish Real Life, yeah.
Okay.
The second one would be, I can understand that, we have to be fair. If others, in terms of the medieval fair, if others had, been able to submit things later, after the deadline, then I don't think that I just don't want to, let me just collect my thoughts here. Medieval fair, I think they just made a clerical error, a human error, as they say. And I think that we should contribute towards their festival as we have in the past. And the amendment I would propose is $1,500 towards the medieval fair. The third one, I'm going to skip over and see if anybody else wants to propose that for that. For fourth one, night shift, it's the same to us, whether it's in kind or cash, and so they're just asking us to adjust which amount is which, and I think that's very fair amount. And I don't want to dominate the conversation, so those are the ones I want to propose at this moment, but also with the leftover amount, when we're down to it, I do have a motion that we use the remaining Tier 2 grant allocation towards our own Canada 150 celebration here in the city of Kitchener, whatever the amount is based on our discussions now, because we've heard from some of our delegations that some have been successful in receiving Ontario 150 grants, but unfortunately we were not successful to receive our own grant application funding, and so it's very important to the city to be able to host a strong festival, a strong event this year for Canada 150, and I think that it's going to be crucial for us to find the funding dollars for that. So that's my proposal.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Singh.
Yeah, well, Councillor Marsh has already kind of put forward what the direction I was heading, so I would just speak in support. As requested by Councillor Davey, a rationale of why this should be allowed. I think it's they made the case themselves that as a volunteer organization that challenges to do all that's required of them in organizing, as well as trying to meet the demands with not many resources. It's difficult for them to sometimes meet all the requirements that are outlined through these applications. And this is an organization that has already established the great work it's been doing in the community as a large region, and hopefully I'll try to hold them to their commitment that in future years they will be coming to the city of Kitchener. I think this would be a good sign of support and working and becoming a partner with this organization, and I would support the $1,500. I think it probably doesn't go enough because they do great work and they can expand to even broaden from that 5,000 to 6,000 attendees, but I think this is a start, and as hopefully next year as they will be coming to Kitchener, we can look at better alignment with them. So I would strongly support that recommendation, or not that motion. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Fernandez.
Yeah. Although I understand where Councillor Marsh is coming from with regard to the Irish Festival, you're jumping from $0 to $4,000, and maybe you can help me understand. Just because that was there, because they dropped it down from 10 to 4, is that why you're suggesting 4?
Go ahead, Ms. Marsh.
Thank you. The festival begins within the next few days. So they have had to reduce their budget based on the fact that they were denied. Staff was recommending that they be denied. So at this point, they're asking for $4,000, and that's what I am proposing.
Okay, thank you. I should have kept you there. You had offered to connect the MT space with their youth program with the library. Is that correct?
Yeah, they are asking for $15,000. Isn't that right? And for in-kind contributions, and and part of that would be to be able to use the KPL space. I'm sure it wouldn't be nearly all of it, but yeah, that would. So I haven't addressed their entire need, just partial.
I understand that. I just wanted to know that there was maybe some movement on that might help that particular portion of their festival. I would like to amend the Healing of the Seven Generations. Right now, they're getting $1,000. I would like to double that with the hope that they could leverage that money with other levels of government, whether it's the region, and certainly the region's responsibility does fall under social services and, our regional health units, which could help supply the number of items that you had spoken about that seniors are requiring and are not being able to meet those needs. So that would be my rationale, Councillor Davey, that there is a gap here, and that hopefully if we increase their grant, that they are able to leverage that with the region or another organization, and even another city, another municipality. Otherwise, I'm in support of all other Councillor Marsh's motions.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Urbanovic.
Thank you very much, and thank you to everyone who presented today, and to staff for and the committee for the many, many hours of work that I know have gone into evaluating each of these recommendations. And I think, as difficult as it is, I think staff have done that and have managed it within the parameters that we gave them, and as Councillor Gazzola indicated, it's up to us now to decide if, in the case of the appeals, there's something, if there's compelling reasons to make an alternate recommendation. I am prepared to support the suggested changes that have been made so far. I would like to suggest one other one, and that's with respect to the Hungarians in Canada Association. I would like, in that instance, to suggest 1,000 cash and 1,500 in kind, which would look to bring as much of the event as possible into our own community, but at the same time, with a small amount being in cash, it would allow them to leverage some of their other funding and also recognize that, just like in broader economic development initiatives where we are working collaboratively with our other cities and townships in the region, it's in our interest to see festivals taking place throughout, ideally every weekend, throughout all of the communities combined within the region of Waterloo, and seeing a festival happen in Cambridge or in Waterloo. While obviously my preference is to see them in Kitchener, I know I have attended festivals in the other cities, as I'm sure other members of council have, and I think when it comes to this particular thing, it is a cultural activity which does fall within our mandate. And also, in particular, I am intrigued by the extra efforts they're going to as part of Canada's 150th anniversary. I will say that while I'm not moving any recommendations for the Sexual Assault Support Center, I struggle with this one because it is something that more work needs to be done in. It's an area that definitely more work needs to be done in, but it also doesn't fit within the mandate of the city in terms of our direct mandate. And so I think this is something that we need to continue to explore and see if there are some ways we can partner and assist in the work that they do that do line up with our mandate. But unfortunately, this doesn't appear to be part of that right now.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Schneider.
Thank you, Chair Ioannidis. This is a difficult day because we have a limited amount of tax dollars to fund these grants. We set up and we approve criteria to allocate these funds, and this was done to take the politics out of it. And then we charge our peer and staff review committee to allocate those funds. And I, just from what we've experienced today, can understand how difficult a job that has to be. You have to say no to some very good causes, some very good ideas, and some things that aren't in the city's responsibility or mandate. So I want to thank the peer and staff committee for the hard and difficult job they've done to be able to bring this forward. We do have a small amount that can be returned to the tax stabilization reserve, and as much as I would like to say there's an amount there, let's give it out. I think it's a small amount, but optically the best thing to do is to return it to the tax stabilization reserve.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fernandez.
I'll request as we vote through these, could we take these appeals individually, please?
Of course, we're going to do every single one individually.
Okay, and record. That was my next request, Councillor Gazzola.
Okay, so I will make my comments, and then I will recap everything that I got from everyone. Actually, let me recap that stuff before I make my comments. So Councillor Gazzola moves the main recommendation, and whatever amendments adjust the dollar signs. So the amendments that I have on the table here are from Councillor Marsh regarding the Irish Festival with $4,000. And then another amendment with the medieval fair with $1,500. And the third one is the night shift, whatever that is, the adjustment. I don't know what that is. It's in kind. And then the remaining funds left that are outstanding be put towards the 150 Celebrate funds, which I'm sure Mr. Young will really appreciate. And then Councillor Fernandez, you put forward an additional $1,000 to make it $2,000 for the Human 7 Generations group. And then Mayor Bravanovic put forward for the Hungarian Canada that they would receive $1,000 in cash and $1,500 in kind in order to keep the event more in Kitchener. And so I will make my comments, and again, this is an issue that I've been struggling with for many years, and it makes it really difficult for us to want to say no to any of the organizations, because every single organization here that comes here has a worthy cause and does exceptional work for our community. We're very appreciative of that, no doubt, but at the same time, we need to be able to balance our books and be able to be fair in the full process. And that's why I'm very supportive in the near future to try to do the best to depoliticize this process and to be fair to everyone. But as for today, I will definitely be supporting all the recommendations that are put forward. I think the Irish Festival is a huge win for our community. I think it's an exciting group that is, I think it's just to add on to to the big Irish festival that everyone likes to, the Irish Day, St. Paddy's Day. So I think it's a really good way to spread that culture, but I think it appeals to a lot of individuals. And the medieval fair, I hope it not to be poachers to Waterloo, but if Waterloo is not willing to commit into providing better support, I think in the future we will be able to do that, and I would look forward to whatever assisting in that case. And then with the Human Seven Generations Fund, I think it's a small token to provide for your organization to show that we do understand your concerns. But at the end of the day, it is a bigger issue that should be looked at different levels of government. And as far as the Hungarian festival, I do like Mayor Vrbanovic's amendment. I think it's another avenue in this community to show that we are a diversified community as well, and they have received significant dollars from the province, and if we can enhance that to make that just a little bit better, so for the future, I think that would be great. So with that, we have recorded votes for all of this. So we will start off with Mayor Vrbanovic's amendment. Councilor Marsh, you have something to say? Or is that okay? Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? So that is carried. No, that is failed because it's a tie. That's a loss. Okay. The next motion will deal with the Human Seven Generations. Please forgive me if I'm naming the names wrong. I'm just writing this quickly. If I incorrectly pronounce any of the. All those in favor, please stand. That's carried. Now we'll go into Councillor Marsh's recommendations. We'll deal with the Irish Festival. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Now dealing with the medieval fair. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. And now the remaining of the funds to be used for the 150 celebration. Oh, did I miss the night shift one? I'm sorry. And the night shift one? All those in favor, please stand. Opposed? That's carried. And then the remaining funds for 150. All those in favor, please stand. Opposed? That's defeated. Okay, so now the remainder of the recommendation. Councillor Gazzola moved the remainder of the recommendation. So it will be whatever the adjusted amounts for the first item, and then in the bottom one too. Transfer goes straight to the Tax Stabilization Reserve Fund. Can you click in? Sorry, because I don't have you on the screen here to click in.
Part of it is approving all the ones going from...
yes, it's approving the ones into Tier 1.
Yeah.
Correct. So it is the balance, it's just changing the numbers.
Yes.
Okay.
Recorded.
Record vote. All those in favor or opposed? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Okay, so that's all there is, I think. Yep, unless we have any other, Mr. May. Oh yeah, we do have a milestone here today. So, Mr. May.
Thank you, Mr. Ioannidis, and thank you, councillors, for your kind comments about the staff and peer evaluation committee. For the past number of years, Renata Willems has been leading our grant process and has truly been the foundation and the rock of the process. This is the last time that she'll be before you, as she is scheduled to retire at the end of May. And so I wanted, in front of all of you, because you all at one time or another said something about her that's very complimentary, I wanted to thank her for her leadership over the years and really building and administering what is a really rock-solid grant process.
I agree too. I think we should all clap. And I think we should all give ourselves a clap because we finished this under time. And
But yeah, I wanted to just, on behalf of council, add my thanks to Renata as well, and thank you for your many years of service. We have a small cadre of seasoned EAs within our organization who have done an incredible job of keeping this organization moving forward, and you're one of them. And although I know we'll have more formal opportunities to thank you at some point in time over a glass of wine or something, just wanted to publicly thank you for your many years of service to the corporation and your work in regards to this particular program especially.
okay, that concludes our meeting. Do we need to go into anything here? Special. Okay.